Welcome to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Thanks for joining us online and also here in the live studio audience. Today we're going to continue our reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam from the second canto. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunda Bihari Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Jasodanandana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana Jaya Jasodanandana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Girivardhari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Nitai Gaura Premanande. It's good. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Chayam Udiraye. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, chapter number 4, and we're taking up where we left off, which means we're starting today at text number 20, 19. Which one? 20. And it happens to be a famous verse. Shriya Patir Yagnapati Prajapatir Diyam Patir Lokapatir Dharapati Patir Gatish Chandraka Vrishni Sattvatam Prasidatam Me Bhagavan Satam Pati. May Lord Sri Krishna, who is the worshipable Lord of all devotees, the protector and glory of all the kings like Antaka and Vrishni of the Yadu dynasty, the husband of all goddesses of fortune, the director of all sacrifices, and therefore the leader of all living entities, the controller of all intelligence, the proprietor of all planets, spiritual and material, and the supreme incarnation on the earth, the supreme all in all, be merciful upon me. Since Shukadeva Goswami is one of the prominent Gata Vyalikas, who are freed from all misconceptions, he therefore expresses his own realized perception of Lord Sri Krishna as being the sum total of all perfection, the personality of Godhead. Everyone is seeking the favor of the goddess of fortune, but people do not know that Lord Sri Krishna is the beloved husband of the goddess of fortune. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that the Lord, in his transcendental abode, Goloka Vrindavan, is accustomed to herding the Surabhi cows and is served there by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune. All these goddesses of fortune are manifestations of his transcendental pleasure potency, Ladini Shakti, in his internal energy. And when the Lord manifested himself on this earth, he partially displayed the activities of his pleasure potency in his Rasa Lila, just to attract the conditioned souls, who are all after the phantasmagoria, pleasure potency, and degraded sex enjoyment. The pure devotees of the Lord, like Shukadeva Goswami, who was completely detached from the abominable sex life of the material world, discussed this act of the Lord's pleasure potency, certainly not in relation to sex, but to relish a transcendental taste inconceivable to the mundaners who are after sex life. Sex life in the mundane world is the root cause of being conditioned by the shackles of illusion. And certainly Shukadeva Goswami was never interested in the sex life of the mundane world, nor does the manifestation of the Lord's pleasure potency have any connection with such degraded things. Lord Chaitanya was a strict sannyasi, so much so that he did not allow any women to come near him, not even to bow down and offer respects. He never even heard the prayers of the Devadasis offered in the temple of Jagannath, because a sannyasi is forbidden to hear songs sung by the fair sex. Yet, even in the rigid position of a sannyasi, he recommended the mode of worship preferred by the gopis of Vrindavan as the topmost loving service possible to be rendered to the Lord. And Srimati Radharani is the principal head of all such goddesses of fortune, and therefore she is the pleasure counterpart of the Lord and is non-different from Krishna. In the Vedic rituals, there are recommendations for performing different types of sacrifice in order to achieve the greatest benefit in life. Such benedictions as the results of performing great sacrifices are, after all, favors given by the goddess of fortune, and the Lord, being the husband or lover of the goddess of fortune, is factually the Lord of all sacrifices also. He is the final enjoyer of all kinds of yajna. Therefore, Yagyapati is another name of Lord Vishnu. It is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita that everything be done for the Yagyapati, Yagnartat Kamana, for otherwise one's acts will be the cause of conditioning by the law of material nature. Those who are not freed from all misconceptions, Vyalikam, perform sacrifices to please the minor demigods, but the devotees of the Lord know very well that Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme enjoyer of all performances of sacrifice. Therefore they perform the Sankirtan Yagya, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, which is especially recommended in this age of Kali. In Kali Yuga, performance of other types of sacrifice is not feasible due to insufficient arrangements and inexpert priesthood. We have information from the Bhagavad Gita 3.10 through 11 that Lord Brahma, after giving rebirth to the conditioned souls within the universe, instructed them to perform sacrifices and to lead a prosperous life. With such sacrificial performances, the conditioned souls will never be in difficulty in keeping body and soul together. Ultimately, they can purify their existence. They will find natural promotion into spiritual existence, the real identity of the living being. A conditioned soul should never give up the practice of sacrifice, charity, and austerity in any circumstances. The aim of all such sacrifices is to please the Yagyapati, the personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Lord is also Prajapati. According to the Katha Upanishad, the one Lord is the leader of the innumerable living entities. The living entities are maintained by the Lord. Eko bahunam yo vididhati kaman. The Lord is therefore called the Supreme Bhuta Brit, or maintainer of all living entities. Living beings are proportionately endowed with intelligence in terms of their previous activities. All living beings are not equally endowed with the same quality of intelligence, because behind such development of intelligence is the control of the Lord, as declared in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. As Paramatma, Supersoul, the Lord is living in everyone's heart, and from Him only does one's power of remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness follow. Matak smritir jnanam apohanam cha. One person can sharply remember past activities by the grace of the Lord, while others cannot. One is highly intelligent by the grace of the Lord, and one is a fool by the same control. Therefore, the Lord is Dhyampati, or the Lord of intelligence. The conditioned souls strive to become lords of the material world. Everyone is trying to lord it over the material nature by applying his highest degree of intelligence. This misuse of intelligence by the conditioned soul is called madness. One's full intelligence should be applied to get free from the material clutches. But the conditioned soul, due to madness only, engages his full energy and intelligence in sense gratification. And to achieve this end of life, he willfully commits all sorts of misdeeds. The result is that instead of attaining an unconditional life of full freedom, the mad conditioned soul is entangled again and again in different types of bondage and material bodies. Everything we see in the material manifestation is but the creation of the Lord. Therefore, He is the real proprietor of everything in the universes. The conditioned soul can enjoy a fragment of this material creation under the control of the Lord, but not self-sufficiently. That is the instruction in the Ishopanishad. One should be satisfied with things awarded by the Lord of the universe. It is out of madness only that one tries to encroach upon another's share of material possessions. The Lord of the universe, out of His causeless mercy upon the conditioned souls, descends by His own energy, Atma Maya, to reestablish the eternal relation of the conditioned souls with Him. He instructs all to surrender unto him instead of falsely claiming to be enjoyers for a certain limit under his control. When he so descends, he proves how much greater is his ability to enjoy, and he exhibits his power of enjoyment by, for instance, marrying 16,000 wives at once. The conditioned soul is very proud of becoming the husband of even one wife, but the Lord laughs at this. The intelligent man can know who is the real husband. Factually, the Lord is the husband of all the women in his creation, but a conditioned soul under the control of the Lord feels proud to be the husband of one or two wives. All these qualifications as the different types of pati mentioned in this verse are meant for Lord Sri Krishna, and Shukadeva Goswami has therefore especially mentioned the pati and gati of the Yadu dynasty. The members of the Yadu dynasty knew that Lord Sri Krishna is everything, and all of them intended to return to Lord Krishna after he had finished his transcendental pastimes on the earth. The Yadu dynasty was annihilated by the will of the Lord because its members had to return home with the Lord. The annihilation of the Yadu dynasty was a material show created by the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, the Lord and the members of the Yadu dynasty are all eternal associates. The Lord is therefore the guide of all devotees, and as such, Shukadeva Goswami offered him due respects with love-laden feelings. It is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who gives liberation. By thinking of his lotus feet at every second, following in the footsteps of authorities, the devotee in trance can see the absolute truth. The learned mental speculators, however, think of him according to their whims. May the Lord be pleased with me. The mystic yogis, after a strenuous effort to control the senses, may be situated in a trance of yoga just to have a vision of the supersoul within everyone. But the pure devotee, simply by remembering the Lord's lotus feet at every second, at once becomes established in real trance, because by such realization, his mind and intelligence are completely cleansed of the diseases of material enjoyment. The pure devotee thinks himself fallen into the ocean of birth and death, and incessantly prays to the Lord to lift him up. He only aspires to become a speck of transcendental dust at the lotus feet of the Lord. The pure devotee, by the grace of the Lord, absolutely loses all attraction for material enjoyment. And to keep free from contamination, he always thinks of the lotus feet of the Lord. King Kulashekar, a great devotee of the Lord, prayed, Krishna tadviya pada pankajapancharantam adyayava me vishatu manasa rajahangsa prana pranaya samaye kapavata pitai kata varodhana vidao smaranam kutaste. My Lord Krishna, I pray that the swan of my mind may immediately sink down to the stems of the lotus feet of your Lordship and be locked in their network. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked up with cough, how will it be possible to think of you? There is an intimate relationship between the swan and the lotus stem, so the comparison is very appropriate. Without becoming a swan or Paramahamsa, one cannot enter into the network of the lotus feet of the Lord. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, the mental speculators, even by dint of learned scholarship, cannot even dream of the absolute truth by speculating over it for eternity. The Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to such mental speculators. And because they cannot enter into the network stem of the lotus feet of the Lord, all mental speculators differ in conclusions. And at the end, they make a useless compromise by saying, as many conclusions, as many ways, according to one's own inclination, yata rucham. But the Lord is not like a shopkeeper trying to please all sorts of customers in the mental speculator exchange. The Lord is what he is, the absolute personality of Godhead, and he demands absolute surrender unto him only. The pure devotee, however, by following the ways of previous acharyas or authorities, can see the Supreme Lord through the transparent medium of a bona fide spiritual master, anupashyati. The pure devotee never tries to see the Lord by mental speculation, but by following in the footsteps of the acharyas, mahajano yena gata sapanta. Therefore, there is no difference of conclusions amongst the Vaishnava acharyas regarding the Lord and the devotees. Lord Chaitanya asserts that the living entity, Jiva, is eternally the servitor of the Lord, and that he is simultaneously one with and different from the Lord. This tattva of Lord Chaitanya is shared by all four sampradayas of the Vaishnava school, all accepting eternal servitude to the Lord even after salvation. And there is no authorized Vaishnava acharya who may think of the Lord and himself as one. This humbleness of the pure devotee who is 100% engaged in his service puts the devotee of the Lord in a trance by which to realize everything. Because, that's interesting, this humbleness of the pure devotee who is 100% engaged in his service puts the devotee of the Lord in a trance by which to realize everything. Because to the sincere devotee of the Lord reveals himself, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 10:10. The Lord, being the Lord of intelligence in everyone, even in the non-devotee, favors his devotee with proper intelligence so that automatically the pure devotee is enlightened with the factual truth about the Lord and his different energies. The Lord is revealed not by one's speculative power or by one's verbal jugglery over the absolute truth. Rather, he reveals himself to a devotee who is fully satisfied by the devotee's service attitude. Shukdev Goswami is not a mental speculator or compromiser of the theory of as many ways, as many conclusions. Rather, he prays to the Lord only, invoking his transcendental pleasure. That is the way of knowing the Lord. May the Lord, who is the beginning of the creation, May the Lord, who in the beginning of the creation amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma from within his heart and inspired him with full knowledge of creation and of his own self, and who appeared to be generated from the mouth of Brahma, be pleased with me. Purport: as we have already discussed herein before, the Lord, as the supersoul of all living beings from Brahma to the insignificant ant, endows all with the required knowledge potent in every living being. A living being is sufficiently potent to possess knowledge from the Lord in the proportion of 50/64, or 78% of the full knowledge acquirable. Since the living being is constitutionally part and parcel of the Lord, he is unable to assimilate all the knowledge that the Lord possesses himself. In the conditioned state, the living being is subject to forget everything after a change of body known as death. This potent knowledge is again inspired by the Lord from within the heart of every living being, and it is known as the awakening of knowledge, for it is comparable to awakening from sleep or unconsciousness. This awakening of knowledge is under the full control of the Lord, and therefore we find in the practical world different grades of knowledge in different persons. This awakening of knowledge is neither an automatic nor a material interaction. The supply source is the Lord himself, Dhyambati, supply source. For even Brahma is also subject to this regulation of the Supreme Creator. In the beginning of the creation, Brahma is born first without any father and mother, because before Brahma there were no other living beings. Brahma is born from the lotus which grows from the abdomen of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and therefore he is known as Aja. This Brahma, or Aja, is also a living being, part and parcel of the Lord, but being the most pious devotee of the Lord, Brahma is inspired by the Lord to create subsequent to the main creation by the Lord, to the agency of material nature. Therefore, neither the material nature nor Brahma is independent of the Lord. The material scientist can merely observe the reactions of the material nature without understanding the direction behind such activities, as a child can see the action of electricity without any knowledge of the powerhouse engineer. This imperfect knowledge of the material scientist is due to a poor fund of knowledge. The Vedic knowledge was therefore first impregnated within Brahma, and it appears that Brahma distributed the Vedic knowledge. Brahma is undoubtedly the speaker of the Vedic knowledge, but actually he was inspired by the Lord to receive such transcendental knowledge as it directly descends from the Lord. The Vedas are therefore called aparushaya, or not imparted by any created being. Before the creation, the Lord was there, Narayana Parovyaktat, and therefore the words spoken by the Lord are vibrations of transcendental sound. There is a gulf of difference between the two qualities of sound, namely prakrita and aprakrita. The physicist can deal only with the prakrita sound, or sound vibrated in the material sky. And therefore we must know that the Vedic sounds recorded in symbolic expressions cannot be understood by anyone within the universe unless and until he is inspired by the vibration of supernatural aprakrita sound, which descends in the chain of disciplic succession from the Lord to Brahma, from Brahma to Narada, from Narada to Vyasa, and so on. No mundane scholar can translate or reveal the true import of the Vedic mantras, hymns. They cannot be understood unless one is inspired or initiated by the authorized spiritual master. The original spiritual master is the Lord himself, and the succession comes down through the sources of parampara, as clearly stated in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So unless one receives the transcendental knowledge from the authorized parampara, one should be considered useless, vipala mata, even though one may be greatly qualified in the mundane advancements of arts and science. Shukadeva Goswami is praying from the Lord by dint of being inspired from within by the Lord so that he could rightly explain the facts and figures of creation as inquired by Maharaj Parikshit. A spiritual master is not a theoretical speculator like the mundane scholar, but is Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enlivens the materially created bodies of the elements by lying down within the universe, and who in his Purusha incarnation causes the living being to be subjected to the 16 divisions of material modes, which are his generator, be pleased to decorate my statements. As a fully dependent devotee, Shukadeva Goswami, unlike a mundane man who is proud of his own capability, invokes the pleasure of the personality of Godhead so that his statements may be successful and be appreciated by the hearers. The devotee also thinks of himself as instrumental for anything successfully carried out, and he declines to take credit for anything done by himself. The godless atheist wants to take all credit for activities, not knowing that even a blade of grass cannot move without the sanction of the Supreme Spirit, the personality of Godhead. Shukadeva Goswami therefore wants to move by the direction of the Supreme Lord, who inspired Brahma to speak the Vedic wisdom. The truths described in the Vedic literatures are not theories of mundane imagination, nor are they fictitious, as the less intelligent class of men sometimes think. The Vedic truths are all perfect descriptions of the factual truth without any mistake or illusion. And Shukadeva Goswami wants to present the truths of creation not as a metaphysical theory of philosophical speculation, but as the actual facts and figures of the subject, since he would be dictated to by the Lord exactly in the same manner as Brahmaji was inspired. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, the Lord is himself the father of the Vedanta knowledge, and it is he only who knows the factual purport of the Vedanta philosophy. So there is no greater truth than the principles of religion mentioned in the Vedas. Such Vedic knowledge or religion is disseminated by authorities like Shukadeva Goswami because he is a humble devotional servitor of the Lord who has no desire to become a self-appointed interpreter without authority. That is the way of explaining the Vedic knowledge, technically known as the parampara system or descending process. The intelligent man can see without mistake that any material creation, whether one's own body or a fruit or flower, cannot beautifully grow up without the spiritual touch. The greatest intelligent man of the world or the greatest man of science can present everything very beautifully only insofar as the spirit life is there, or in so much as the spiritual touch is there. Spiritual touch. Therefore, the source of all truths is the Supreme Spirit, and not gross matter as wrongly conceived by the gross materialist. We get information from the Vedic literature that the Lord himself first entered the vacuum of the material universe, and thus all things gradually developed one after another. Similarly, the Lord is situated as localized Paramatma in every individual being. Hence, everything is done by him very beautifully. The 16 principal creative elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, sky, and the 11 sense organs, first developed from the Lord himself and were thereby shared by the living entities. Thus, the material elements were created for the enjoyment of the living entities. The beautiful arrangement behind all material manifestations is therefore made possible by the energy of the Lord, and the individual living entity can only pray to the Lord to understand it properly. Since the Lord is the supreme entity, different from Shukadeva Goswami, the prayer can be offered to him. The Lord helps the living entity to enjoy material creation, but he is aloof from such false enjoyment. Shukadeva prays for the mercy of the Lord, not only for being helped personally in presenting the truth, but also for helping others to whom he would like to speak. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of Vasudeva, who compiled the Vedic literatures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarian transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. In pursuance of the specific utterance Vaisesika, or compiler of the system of transcendental knowledge, Srila Sridhar Swami has commented that the respectful obeisances are offered to Srila Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of Vasudeva. Srila Jiva Goswami has agreed to this, but Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has made a further advance, namely that the nectar from the mouth of Lord Krishna is transferred to his different consorts, and thus they learn the finer arts of music, dance, dressing, decorations, and all such things which are relished by the Lord. Such music, dance, and decorations enjoyed by the Lord are certainly not anything mundane, but because the Lord is addressed in the very beginning as para, or transcendental. The transcendental knowledge is unknown to the forgotten, conditioned souls. Srila Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of the Lord, thus compiled the Vedic literatures to revive the lost memory of the conditioned souls about their eternal relation with the Lord. One should therefore try to understand the Vedic scriptures, or the nectar transferred by the Lord to his consorts in the conjugal humor, from the lotus-like mouth of Vyasadeva or Shukadeva. By gradual development of transcendental knowledge, one can rise to the stage of transcendental arts of music and dance, displayed by the Lord in his Rasa Lila. But without having the Vedic knowledge, one can hardly understand the transcendental nature of the Lord's rasa dance and music. The pure devotees of the Lord, however, can equally relish the nectar in the form of the profound philosophical discourses and in the form of kissing by the Lord in the rasa dance, as there is no mundane distinction between the two. And we'll just take a few reflections or questions at this point. And if you don't mind, we maybe could see the Zoom room. Haribol.
I like the point where what beautifies a material entity, whether living or non-living, is a spiritual touch. And there's a concept of connecting with the Supreme called a Johavith, which means calling them again and again. And that's what really engages our spiritual touch, by calling Krishna again and again.
Thank you. Beautiful. Haribol. What else did you hear? Yes.
Krishna Maharaj, Danvat Pranam. I was reflecting on the point that in the age of Kali, Sankirtan is the best one. Like Sankirtan process is the best for spiritual practices, as the regular karmakanda activities is difficult to perform. So in particular, I would like to share a reflection that for one of my friends, they were trying to do a specific process, but we were not able to find the priest for the process. And finally, they have to, they could not do it 100% right. So I was just correlating to the statement that was mentioned by Prabhupada, that in Kali Yuga, it's difficult to do all those process which is difficult. And also I have a question that so we have the super soul inside our heart, and we also have three modes of material nature, like sattvic, rajas, and tamasic. And so whenever a person tries to act in that direction, does the super soul has any involvement in that act, or it's only the person's intelligence is doing it? For example, if I try to do good for others, or based on any situation, if that person is not trying to act in response to whatever action he has been gone through, does the super soul has any involvement with that, like judging him, hey, do this or don't do this, or it's just watching it and the person himself is doing based on the reactions?
Yes.
Okay.
It has something to do with it.
Okay.
So don't do it. Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, Krishna mentions there's 5 factors to every action. And one of those factors he mentions is the super soul. He says, and ultimately the super soul. Of course, Krishna, as he's described previously, is all of the elements together, not as Prabhupada quoted here, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme. And therefore, indirectly, he's engaged in assisting the living entities in various ways through his multifarious energies. Parasya Shaktir Vivadaya Vishuyate, Sabhavika Jnana Bala Kriyacha. All the various energies come from Krishna, and so they're assisting the living entities either in their endeavor to enjoy the material nature or their endeavor to become Krishna conscious. So you'll find also in the 13th chapter of the Gita, Krishna is mentioned as the overseer and the permitter. So he oversees all the various ways in which the living entity moves in the material nature, and ultimately he permits them to do that. Bhagavatam, asau gunamaya bhavir bhuta sukshmendriya abhi swanirmiteshu nirvishto bhunkte bhuteshu tad gunan. At the end of a particular creation of the world, everything's wound back up in the body of Mahavishnu. And when Mahavishnu breathes out again, Yashaika nishvasitakala matavalambya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanata Vishnur mahansa iha yasya kala vishesho govindamadi purusham dhammaham bhajami. Then all those living entities come back out into the material nature to take up where they left off before. And who is it who reminds them what they were doing in the last creation? Can be only Krishna, as stated in the verse, that there's nobody else there at that time. The living entities become manifest, so Krishna's there to remind them where they took off, what their present karma will be again, how they'll take up where they left off and to continue. So the simpler answer is yes. But that's some evidence from other areas of the Shastra. Yes, Gandharvika Radha, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I was this sentence just caught my attention, and there is so much meaning in this. Mm, in verse actually 21, Prabhupada says that the Lord is revealed not by one's speculative power or by one's verbal jugglery over the absolute truth. Rather, he reveals himself to a devotee when he is fully satisfied by the devotee's service attitude. So I was also thinking how in Nectar of Instruction also Prabhupada tells in the preface that the success of a devotee in Krishna consciousness depends on his attitude. So, and so many lectures, you also mention how everybody loves the servant, nobody likes the master. So, this developing this service attitude helps one to know everything about Krishna. So that sentence
Thank
caught
you.
my attention. Really.
Yes, it's a universal principle. In the relationship between an inferior and a superior, the only way to know the superior is through the right attitude, because the superior is not obligated to reveal anything unless there's a sense of trust, and then later on love. That's when there's full revelation. When you love somebody, then they'll reveal everything. But other than that, they're not obligated. If you try to pry it out of them, they may even become more tight-lipped if you have the wrong attitude. So that's why bhakti is the only process through which, as Krishna says, bhakti mam abhijananti yavanyashasmi tatvataha tatvato tatvato gyas vishite tadanantaram. Sorry. That verse mentions that bhakti is the process only through which one can understand the absolute truth and enter into his nature. Yes. Please make sure it makes flowing so nobody has to get up. Unless you want to get up.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In the verse 22nd, we read that a living being is sufficiently potent to possess knowledge from Lord in proportion of 50/64 or 78%. Could you please talk about that? Like, where does that 78% come from?
As I mentioned in the Bhagavatamrita, although we give a very simple analogy that there's the ocean, it has certain elements, and then if you take one drop out of the ocean, there'll be the same elements, just in smaller quantity. The commentaries there point out that even in that case, the living entity doesn't have all the qualities of the Lord. Just as in mentioning Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rupa Goswami describes how Krishna has 4 more qualities than Narayan does. Even though Narayan has more qualities than Lord Shiva, then Krishna, he has 4 special qualities that nobody else has. He has the most qualities. Those qualities are that he has very intimate, friendly servants who are imbued with a natural, friendly love. That he has amazing pastimes, especially his childhood pastimes that we sing about on Damodar, when we sing Damodar Ashtakam. That he plays a flute. Nobody else plays a flute. Narayan doesn't play a flute. And what's the last one? And his beauty. His beauty is unparalleled. Nobody is as beautiful as Krishna. People see him, they can't take their eyes off him. And they curse the Creator for making their eyelids blink. If you can imagine that kind of beauty, then you're thinking of Krishna. So to speak of the living entities, then they have similar qualities as Krishna, but not the same quantity. Okay, we have... Okay, Bhakti Roman, that's who that is. Okay, Bhakti Roman.
Oh, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Krishna.
I have a question. There was energy of Krishna mentioned, named by Hladini Shakti, and by studying Krishna book and watching the Mahabharata. So the same when even Yashoda Ma, he opened the Krishna mouth and he see entire universe in there, and it says that he used the and she started to philosophically think about Krishna as the supreme personality, and then it says, "Oh, and Krishna covers mom with that energy," and she starts thinking about him as of mother too. Is that the Hladini Shakti energy which he uses for people to enjoy him?
The category of energy that's mentioned in the pastimes you just cited is called Yoga Maya. So Krishna has two potencies. Actually, they're the same potency, but they act differently according to the person interacting with them. There's Yoga Maya or Mahamaya. So these are the potencies through which either a living entity in the material world who's covered by Mahamaya forgets who he is. In fact, if you grab a 10th canto, 14th chapter, near the last section, you can hear how Brahma mentions that is there anything a living entity can't forget when he's influenced by Mahamaya? And in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Tejo vari mridam yata vinimayo yatra trisargo mrsha, even the devas are bewildered by the Mahamaya, the external energy of the Lord. And it's what Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita when he says, Daivahi esha gunamayi ma mamaya duratyaya ma mevaye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. The living entity who's in the material world is covered by my divine nature. However, there's also the internal potency through which living entities are covered in the sense that they forget Krishna's godhood. Because when one's aware of Krishna being God, how can one have a friendly or sweet relationship with him? And therefore, Yogamaya, in one of her features, suppresses the opulence of the Supreme Godhead, and he becomes a cowherd boy. He appears to be a cowherd boy. He appears to be Yashoda's son of Nanda, or the friend of Subala, or a lover of the gopis, and so forth. And sometimes the two energies act simultaneously. For instance, you'll find when Duryodhan was chastising Vidura and calling him a useless person because he was so envious. Did you find it? Near the end. It's about how Maya, who can't be bewildered, something like that. Then Duryodhan chastised Vidura because he was an envious person. That is, Duryodhan was envious. And Vidura then took it as an opportunity to leave home, because sometimes you need a good excuse to break away. You're just waiting for it. It's like, that was it? I'm out of here. And so Vidura walked out, and he said, I'm just going to give everything to Krishna. And he put his bow and arrow down. He was a Kshatriya, and he went out on pilgrimage. And so then Prabhupada mentions how the anger and envy of Duryodhan was controlled by the Lord's... You found it? Okay, that's big points. Thank you very much. That was controlled by the material energy, or Mahamaya, whereas Vidura's inspiration in that same instance, in the same room, was being directed by Yogamaya. So these potencies of the Lord, sometimes Prabhupada describes it as there's electricity, sometimes it makes heat, and sometimes it makes cold. In fact, if you get one of those, like I have, Japanese heaters, coolers, it's either hot or cold, comes out of the same machine. So the Hladini Shakti is different. So there's three major potencies that are mentioned in another context. And those are the Sandhini potency, and then there's the Samvit potency and Hladini potency. So Samvit means the knowledge potency of the Lord, through which anyone can know anything. It's coming from Krishna, and that's what we've been hearing about. And Sandhini potency means how anything is maintained and takes shape. Like anything in this material world has a maintenance. We're sitting on a floor. How's that happening? We're on a planet that's hurtling through space, but we're somehow being maintained. So that potency is in the spiritual world, through which all different aspects for Krishna's enjoyment are maintained. And that potency specifically comes from Lord Balaram. And then Hladini Shakti is the Lord's pleasure potency, through which he enjoys. And that comes from Srimati Radharani, who's the arbiter of the Hladini Shakti. Those three Shaktis, by the way, when perverted in this material world, become the three qualities, goodness, passion, and ignorance, which cause Hlada-tapatraya. Jiva Goswami says they inflict misery on us instead of giving pleasure. The Hladini Shakti, which is the ultimate bestower of happiness in the spiritual world, here in this material world, causes ultimate misery, or the utmost misery. And so there's this conversity that takes place through the perversion of the energy. You enter into the, what was it Alice went into? A rabbit hole? Did Alice go in a rabbit hole? Yes. She went into the rabbit hole and everything was, I haven't read it in a while, but I think everything was reversed down there. Yes, okay. So we went down the rabbit hole sometime. Thank you. And everything's opposite. Welcome to opposite world. Okay, we'll take one more. Is that right, Roman? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Maharaj.
Sure.
Really fulfilled my
Okay, good.
desire to know.
All right. That's the Samvit potency. Hare Krishna, John.
This is a simple but also vague question. Is the desire to know Krishna at all considered service?
Yeah, it's definitely inspired by, if to inquire about Krishna, or to have that impetus to know Krishna. Technically it's not a service, but it's spiritual, because that's the beginning of knowing everything about Krishna. That's why the Vedanta Sutra, which is a summary of all the Vedas, starts off with a Tato Brahma Jignata, which is ask about Brahman, try to know Krishna. And Krishna himself, in the 4 nutshell verses of the Gita, says, Etavad Brahma somebody? Tattva jignasanatmana yad anvaya teretaschad yovashishesa sospyaham. Sorry, I mangled the verse. Etavad eva jignasa tattva jignasanatmanaha anvaya vyatareka bhyam yat syat sarvata sarvada. There it is. It's Krishna saying that you should, etavan eva jignasa, up to this, you should inquire about the Supreme Personality of Godhead in all times, in all places, in all circumstances, both directly and indirectly. And so it's an instruction Krishna gives. So if one follows that instruction, it's a kind of service. And it's spiritual through and through. Okay, we have time for one more. Okay.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I have a question related to that 78% of the knowledge that one can be awarded, and what are the criteria, like in proportion, how it's awarded? Is it correct that it's in according to the surrender, how one is surrendering to Krishna, in that proportion it will be awarded, or is it?
Yes. As one becomes purified, one naturally then begins to manifest one's spiritual qualities. Yes, bhaktir bhagavatiya kinchana sarvara gunas tatra samasate sura harava bhaktasa kuto mahadguna manorati nasati davato bihi. 5:18-12 Bhagavatam says that, by performing devotional service, then the natural good qualities of the living entity become more and more manifest. So as we apply ourselves to devotional service and become purified, then naturally those qualities will shine forth all the way up to 78%. And some of them are mentioned in the Shastras. They're actually really nice to hear. The other day, I think on Bhakti on a Monday night, we read, first of all, a list from the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in which Krishna describes the qualities of a saintly person. And then there are qualities listed which are those that manifest in a pure devotee. There are qualities listed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami that appear in somebody who's reached the level of bhava, like Shantir Avyarta Kalatvam, Virakti Manashunyata, Asabandha, Samutkanta, Namagani Sadaruchi. He says there's a sense of quality that a person is tolerant. Like Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die. He said, oh well, it's Krishna's mercy. Avyarta Kalatvam means person won't waste any time. And then Virakti means completely detached from everything material. Manashunyata means free from man, any hankering from things from the material world. Asabandha, Samutkanta, and a person's always eager to know Krishna. Namagani, Sadaruchi, always attached to the holy name. So there are many, many lists. Titikshava Karunika Surida Sarvadehinam Ajatra Satrava Santa Sarava Sarabhushana. Kapiladev says these are the qualities of a sadhu, and he lists Titikshava Karunika, mercy, tolerance, so forth. So all those become naturally manifest in someone who's advancing in the process of devotional service. They're already there, but they're covered. So now we'll read a few more. Ready? Okay, only 3 people. Everybody else cover your ears. Okay. O King, although sorry, I didn't read your verse, but luckily I have it right here. Here it is. Thank you for finding this. This is from 10:14:44. Kim na vismarantiha maya mohita chetasa yan mohitam jagat sarvan abhikshnam vismritatmakam. Yet there it is. What indeed is not forgotten by those whose minds are bewildered by the Lord's illusory potency? By that power of Maya, this entire universe remains in perpetual bewilderment. And in this atmosphere of forgetfulness, no one can understand his own identity. You want to hear it again? Yes. Kind of explains a lot, right? What indeed is not forgotten by those whose minds are bewildered by the Lord's illusory potency? Would that be Mahamaya or Yogamaya? By the power of that Maya, the entire universe remains in perpetual bewilderment, and in this atmosphere of forgetfulness, no one can understand his own identity. Purport, it is clearly stated here that the entire universe is bewildered. Thus, even great demigods like Indra and Brahma are not exempt from the principle of forgetfulness. Since Lord Krishna exercised his internal illusory potency over his cowherd boyfriends and calves, it's not at all astonishing that for 1 year they could not remember their position. Indeed, by the Lord's external illusory potency, the conditioned souls forget their existence not only for 1 year, but for many billions and billions of years as they transmigrate through the kingdom of ignorance called the material world. Case closed. My dear king, Brahma, the firstborn, on being questioned by Narada, exactly appraised him on this subject as it was directly spoken by the Lord to his own son, who was impregnated with Vedic knowledge from his very birth. As soon as Brahma was born of the abdominal lotus petals of Vishnu, he was impregnated with Vedic knowledge, and therefore he is known as Vedagarbha, or a Vedantist from the embryo. He was a Vedantist from the embryo. Where'd you go to school? Well, in the womb, I started. Without Vedic knowledge or perfect infallible knowledge, no one can create anything. All scientific knowledge and perfect knowledge are Vedic. One can get all types of information from the Vedas, and as such, Brahma was impregnated with all perfect knowledge so that it was possible for him to create. Thus, Brahma knew the perfect description of creation, and it was exactly apprised to him by the Supreme Lord Hari. Brahma, on being questioned by Narada, told Narada exactly what he had heard directly from the Lord. Narada again told exactly the same thing to Vyasa, and Vyasa also told Shukadeva exactly what he had heard from Narada. And Shukadeva was going to repeat the same statements as he had heard them from Vyasa. That is the way to Vedic understanding. The language of the Vedas can be revealed only by the above-mentioned disciplic succession and not otherwise. There is no use in theories. Knowledge must be factual. There are many things that are complicated, and one cannot understand them unless they are explained by one who knows. The Vedic knowledge is also very difficult to know and must be learned by the above-mentioned system, otherwise it is not at all understood. Shukadeva Goswami therefore prayed for the mercy of the Lord so that he might be able to repeat the very same message that was spoken directly by the Lord to Brahma, or what was directly spoken by Brahma to Narada. Therefore, the statements of creation explained by Shukadeva Goswami are not at all, as the mundaners suggest, theoretical, but are perfectly correct. One who hears these messages and tries to assimilate them gets perfect information of the material creation. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the second canto, 4th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Process of Creation. Sadhu, sadhu. Bravo. Bravissimo. Chapter 5, the cause of all causes. Haribol. Sri Narada Muni asked Brahmaji, O chief amongst the demigods, O firstborn living entity, I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Please tell me that transcendental knowledge which specifically directs one to the truth of the individual soul and the supersoul. Good question, right? I mean, this is setting it up perfectly for us to know everything. Purport, the perfection of the parampara system, or the path of disciplic succession, is further confirmed. In the previous chapter, it has been established that Brahmaji, the firstborn living entity, received knowledge directly from the Supreme Lord, and the same knowledge was imparted to Narada, the next disciple. Narada asked to receive the knowledge, and Brahmaji imparted it upon being asked. Therefore, asking for transcendental knowledge from the right person and receiving it properly is the regulation of the disciplic succession. This process is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita 4.2. The inquisitive student must approach a qualified spiritual master to receive transcendental knowledge by surrender, submissive inquiries, and service. The inquisitive student must approach a qualified spiritual master to receive transcendental knowledge by surrender, submissive inquiries, and service. Knowledge received by submissive inquiries and service is more effective than knowledge received in exchange for money. A spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from Brahma and Narada has no demand for dollars and cents. Student loans, anyone? A bona fide student has to satisfy him by sincere service to obtain knowledge of the relation and nature of the individual soul and the supersoul. My dear Father, please describe factually the symptoms of this manifest world. What is its background? How is it created? And how is it conserved? And under whose control is all this being done? The inquiries by Narada Muni on the basis of factual cause and effect appear very reasonable. The atheists, however, put forward many self-made theories without any touch of cause and effect. The manifested world, as well as the spirit soul, is still unexplained by the godless atheist through the medium of experimental knowledge, although they have put forward many theories manufactured by their fertile brains. Contrary to such mental, speculative theories of creation, however, Narada Muni wanted to know all the facts of creation in truth and not by theories. Transcendental knowledge regarding the soul and the supersoul includes knowledge of the phenomenal world and the basis of its creation. In the phenomenal world, three things are factually observed by any intelligent man: the living beings, the manifest world, and the ultimate control over them. That's nice. In the phenomenal world, three things are factually observed in any intelligent man, by any intelligent man: the living beings, the manifest world, and the ultimate control over them. The intelligent man can see that neither the living entity nor the phenomenal world are creations of chance. The symmetry of creation and its regulative actions and reactions suggest the plan of an intelligent brain behind them. And by genuine inquiry, one may find out the ultimate cause with the help of one who knows them factually. What are the three elements known by an intelligent person? Yeah, correct. Yeah. My dear Father, all this is known to you scientifically because whatever was created in the past, whatever will be created in the future, and whatever is being created at present, as well as everything within the universe, is within your grip, just like a walnut. Brahma is the direct creator of the manifested universe and everything within the universe. He therefore knows what happened in the past, what will happen in the future, and what is happening at present. Three principal items, namely the living being, the phenomenal world, and the controller, are all in continuous action, past, present, and future. And the direct manager is supposed to know everything of such actions and reactions as one knows about a walnut within the grip of one's palm. The direct manufacturer of a particular thing is supposed to know how he learned the art of manufacturing, when he got the ingredients, how he set it up, and how the products in the manufacturing process are being turned out. Because Brahma is the firstborn living being, naturally, he is supposed to know everything about creative functions. We'll take a 5-minute break. We'll be back here at 8 minutes before the hour. Haribol. you can go feed a cow. If you can find a goshala nearby, bring some bananas.
Yeah, so 7 is Damodar's. 5:30 to 7 was reading.
Okay.
So,
So we just have a few minutes left.
yeah.
Okay. How was the break? Did you feed any cows? My dear Father, what is the source of your knowledge? Under whose protection are you standing? And under whom are you working? What is your real position? Do you alone create all entities with material elements by your personal energy? It was known to Sri Narada Muni that Lord Brahma attained creative energy by undergoing severe austerities. As such, he could understand that there was someone else superior to Brahmaji, who invested Brahma with the power of creation. Therefore, he asked all the above questions. Discoveries of progressive scientific achievements are therefore not independent. The scientist has to attain the knowledge of a thing already existing by means of the wonderful brain made by someone else. A scientist can work with the help of such an awkward brain. A scientist can work with the help of such an awarded brain, but it is not possible for the scientist to create his own or a similar brain. Therefore, no one is independent in the matter of any creation, nor is such creation automatic. As the spider very easily creates the network of its cobweb and manifests its power of creation without being defeated by others, so also you yourself, by employment of your self-sufficient energy, create without another's help, without any other's help. Purport: the best example of self-sufficiency is the sun. The sun does not require to be illuminated by any other body. Rather, it is the sun which helps all other illuminating agents. For in the presence of the sun, no other illuminating agent becomes prominent. Narada compared the position of Brahma to the self-sufficiency of the spider, who creates its own field of activities without any other's help by employment of its own energetic creation of saliva. 6. Whatever we can understand by the nomenclature, characteristics, and features of a particular thing, superior, inferior, or equal, eternal or temporary, is not created from any other source other than that of your Lordship, thou so great. Purport: the manifested world is full of varieties of created beings in 8,400,000 species of life, and some of them are superior and inferior to others. In human society, the human being is considered to be the superior living being, and amongst the human beings, there are also different varieties, good, bad, equal, etc. But Narada Muni took for granted that none of them has any source of generation besides his father, Brahmaji. Therefore, he wanted to know all about them from Lord Brahma. And we have till 7 when we're starting the Dhammarashtakam, if I'm not incorrect. And so we'll just take the last few minutes for some reflection or questions. Yes.
In one of the texts where it said that Brahmaji knows the past, present and future, and then in Bhagavad Gita where Arjun says that it is only Krishna who knows the past, present and future. So how do we understand these two?
Well, Brahma is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the devotee of the Lord knows as much as the Lord empowers him to know. So in the case of Brahma, in his post, he needs to know certain amount of past, present, and future in order to do his job. So Krishna empowers him from within. Teni Brahma Hridha ya adikaviye muhanti yat surayaha. And otherwise, he's not omniscient like Krishna, but in various places, Prabhupada mentions that he's so empowered that he's almost like Krishna. But that's Krishna's arrangement. He can empower anyone to be extremely potent in his or her service. Prabhu.
I think this came up in Bhakti Vaibhava, that why is Narada asking Brahma about who is the supreme creator when he is such an exalted devotee himself?
Well, he's playing the role of his son, and we find such inquiries throughout the Bhagavatam. Even already we've had such inquiries when the inquirer is asking for the sake of others, although it's not specifically mentioned here in that case. It's in an innocent voice of a son saying, "Dad." But it's a section that Kaviraj Goswami brings up again in the first section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this conversation. In any case, it's a technique used by most inquirers throughout the Bhagavatam to ask simple questions for the for the benefit of everyone. And Prabhupada even mentions that about Arjuna. Can I see your universal form? And Prabhupada says, well, he's doing it just for us and for all time to come, so that you got to show your ID card to be God later on. All right. Hare Krishna. Malini.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, when you're reading in the first half, I was thinking, how Bhagavatam is not just that it was written by just somebody, they just got an idea and they wrote the book, but how Shukadeva Goswami was meditating so deeply and with the humility that whatever was revealed to Lord Brahma, please let that be revealed to me so I can write this book. So I was just appreciating the books that we have today they're so deep in knowledge and not written by any ordinary or mundane people like people take it these days.
Yes, and it has so much flavor as well. I mean, we hear philosophical points that are profound, and then we also hear many details of the philosophy, like 78%. Where else do you hear such such details? 78% qualities of a living being. But those who hear Bhagavatam directly feel its potency. Same with Bhagavad Gita. It's palpable. And that's mentioned at the beginning of this canto, that those who patiently hear the Bhagavatam will experience a change in heart just by listening to it, which becomes a proof for those who are listening to the Bhagavatam, because it's self-effulgent. The effect is there. If you take a potent drug, you'll know when the effects start to manifest in your body and mind. So now we have the Damodara Ashtakam. So if you wish, you could turn towards the deities and also form a line coming around the corner. Riding 6 white horses. Want to play? Oh, yeah. Shri Damarashtaka ki jai. Shri Kartik Vrat ki jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. Namam Vishwaram Chit Anandarupam Rasat Sundarango Kule Rasamanam. Namamishwaram Sachidanandarupam Rasatkundalam Gokule Rajamanam. Yashoda Bhiyolukala Davamanam Param Rishkavatyanta Chodrutya Gopya. Yashoda Bhiyolukala Davamanam Param Rishkavatyanta Chodrutya Gopya. Idantam muhune prayumam vridantam Param bhoja yudena satantanetram. Idantam muhune prayumam vridantam Param bhoja yudena satantanetram. Shashakam Patrire Kangatanta Sita Graivam Damodaram Bhaktivanam. Shashakam Patrire Kangatanta Sita Graivam Damodaram Bhaktivanam. Tidriksvalila Virananda Kunde Sagosham Nimacham Dama Kapayambam. Tidriksvalila Virananda Kunde Sagosham Nimacham Akyapayambam. Shita Keshu Bhaktir Jithatvam Na Prema Kastam Shata Viti Vande. Shitageshu Bhaktir Chittatva Puna Prema Tastam Shata Vritti Bande Varam Deva Moksham Moksham Varimba Nachanyam Vinayam Pare Saratiha Deva Moksham Moksham Bhagima Nachanyam Vinayam Pare Saratiha Iram Deva Purnata Gopala Balam Sarame Manastyari Rastanti Mandai Idam Deva Purnata Gopala Balam Sarame Manasyari Rastanti Mandai Idam Te Mukam Bojam Matyantam Nila Vikam Kundalai Snigrara Taishagogya Idam Te Mukam Bojam Matyantam Nila Vikam Kundalai Snigrara Taishagogya Muhushunditam Bimbaradadharam Me Anastya Virastavaram Lakshavada Muhushunditam Bimbaradadharam Me Anastya Virastavaram Lakshavada Namo Deva Damo Dharanam Krishna Grihaneshamamadyam Yakshi Krishna. Kripa Drishti Drishyati Dinambatanu Grihaneshamamadyam Yakshi Krishna. Veratmajavada Jayavayata Yamochitau Bhakti Bhajau Bhaja. Prema Bhakti Sakame Priyaksha Mokshe Graho Mistita Mudareha. Atta Prema Bhakti Sakame Priyaksha Mokshe Graho Mistita Mudareha. Namaste Sudame Surati Sudame Karyataraya Vishwasadame. Namaste Sudame Surati Sudame Karyataraya Vishwasadame. Namo Radhikaya Dvaniya Priyaye Namo Nanta Vilaya Devaya Tubhyam. Namo Radhikaya Kariya Priyaye Namo Nanta Vilaya Devaya Tubhyam. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, Haribo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go Premanande, Jaya Radha, Madan Mohan Radha, Madan Mohan Radhe. Jaya Radha, Madan Mohan Radha, Madan Mohan Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Shri Kartik Vrat ki, Shri Damodar Astaka ki, Premanande. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Translation, please. Translation, please. Stamarashikam from the Padma Purana is about the paternal love of Yashoda for Lord Krishna. Although many people aspire for peace of mind in this world, The devotee wants no such thing. Every parent knows there's constant anxiety. Out of love for one's child, one's always remembering him or her, thinking, where is she now? What's he doing? Is he okay? Is she getting along all right? And Yashoda is constantly thinking of Krishna, even before he was born. Then, during the days, she'd worry where he was when he'd go off to the forest. She'd run after him 7 times to make sure he had his lunch. So as a baby, one day, while she was boiling some milk and taking care of Krishna on her lap, milk boiled over, and she went to attend to it and put Krishna down, who took it as an affront. And with false tears in his eyes, he bit his lip. And he picked up a little stone and he smashed the butter pot and began giving butter to the monkeys. And then realizing they had committed a federal crime, he ran out of the courtyard, leaving little footprints of butter out into the outer courtyard. When Yashoda came back and saw what had happened and saw how frightened her child was, she chased after him. She thought he may become too afraid and do worse mischief, or something might happen to him, so she wanted to calm him down, bind him to the wooden grinding mortar. So she chased after him, and who can chase after the Supreme Personality of Godhead? As it is said in the Shishopanishad, Anejari kam manaso javyo naina deva nuvam purvanarshat tadavato nyanate titishtat tasminapo matarishva dadati. Even the devas, if they chase after the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot catch him. No one could catch him. Kalyavana ran after Krishna and always found him out of reach. And Yashoda, because she loves Krishna and because Krishna wants to be conquered by his devotees, allowed himself to be captured by his beloved mother, who then tried to tie him to the wooden grinding stone. And there she found that the rope she had used was 2 inches too short. So she got a little more rope and tied it, still 2 inches too short. As Krishna is Yogeshvara, Yogeshvara. He's a supreme mystic of all supreme mystics. And in playing with his mother, although she added many more extensions to the rope, it still remained 2 inches too short. The first inch is representative, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, of our own endeavor to reach Krishna. And the other inch is Krishna's willingness to allow us to be with him, in which he reaches out to us. When Krishna saw that Yashoda was perspiring and frustrated in trying to tie him out of motherly affection, he allowed himself to be tied around the belly. Therefore he's called Damodara, one whose belly is tied with ropes. So then Krishna dragged the wooden grinding mortar between the 2 Arjun trees that were Nalakuvera and Manigriva, who had been cursed by Narada for indecency, public indecency. And when the trees crashed to the ground, they were liberated. And this was the design of Narada as he had uttered the curse. He said, "You will become twin Arjun trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj, and later when the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, he will liberate you." So Krishna considered this. He thought, now I'm tied to this wooden grinding mortar, and I'm crawling around. Narada has said it, therefore I must do it. And this is the most important aspect of advancement in devotional service, that if a pure devotee favors us or says something on our behalf or gives us an instruction that we follow, then we'll be successful without a doubt. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, the author says that one may be a devotee of Lord Narayan, and in such case, one may or may not be successful in reaching the goal. But then he says, if someone is the devotee of Lord Narayan, then he or she will definitely be successful, without question. So Nalaku and Vera and Manigriva were liberated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this song has been memorialized in the Padma Purana and all over the world constantly now, because in every time zone, someone's singing this song and remembering the pastimes of Lord Damodar and Vrindavan. So anyone who's here tonight can make a special prayer to them, to Lord Damodar, to pray for a benediction in devotional service. Whatever that might be, whatever you want to ask for, this is a good time to ask for it during Kartik. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, dear Shri Shri Panchatattva, dear Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Radha Damodar, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsimhadev. If you so desire, then what?
Please bless us so that we may continue to serve under your lotus feet.
Anyone else? And?
And that every soul in here and those who may be watching online later can offer a lamp to you every single day and have the service mindset to continue to move forward in their devotional service.
Nice. One more.
And please empower us so all of us can keep our Karthik vows and come out of this Karthik stronger as a community.
Also empower us to stay steady in our devotional service and make sure that our sadhana is stronger this month.
Thank you for considering our requests. Go Premanande. Tomorrow is, last time I checked, if I'm not incorrect, is Saturday. And I'm looking along. Tomorrow we're having a memorial service for Gauri. So we'll have special kirtan and also a prasadam feast. So this is the right thing to do for the community to come together after Gauri's passing and celebrate her life as a devotee. And this is a very important time for everyone to be together and to chant for her and to take prasadam together. So if at all possible, please come tomorrow for as much of the program as you possibly can, and we'll be together to celebrate her life and pray for special benedictions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead for her shelter at his lotus feet. Gaur Premanande Haribol.
I'm still in Miss Wallace's Google Classroom. Oh,
Hare Krishna. Any other announcement? Okay. Are they offered? Somebody has to eat 2,000 cookies. This is a great boon to distribute prasadam. It's a dry world out there. People get, Snickers bar. They get all kinds of unmentionable things, and it pollutes their consciousness. But one cookie from Shishirada Madan Mohan and they become purified. So how are we going to distribute them all?
Prabhu, we have all the cookies packed, and we have the books, book bags, thank you cards, and ribbons, everything ready. So you can take a box of Gita. One box has 24 Gitas only, and you can pack it yourself, or tomorrow we are packing it here as well, so you can take a packed box. And all you have to do is go in any of the neighborhoods and just hang them on the door. You don't even have to say anything because the card inside already says thank you and what this book is all about. So take as many cases as Bhagavad Gita as you want. And there was a sign-up sheet sent on ISKCON SV General and books. If you have not signed up, please sign up. If not, you can just come and pick up the books tomorrow at the temple. We will have it tomorrow and day after tomorrow, and I think day after tomorrow is a Halloween. And if anybody comes to your drawer for trick or treat, you can give them a pack as well. In that way, you can distribute prasadam. Hare Krishna.
No cookie left behind. Please be generous and distribute it as much as possible because Kali Yuga is getting thicker every day and people need the help. Thank you very much. Is there any other announcement?
Hare Krishna, today's prasadam was cooked by Hansa Priya Mataji.
Haribo! Sharira Vijaja Jotendriya Chahika Jibe Pele Vishaya Shagare Dharma Dedi Boyati Lobo Muesu Durmati Take Jeta Katita Samsare Krishna Bodha Toyamoy Koribare Jihajay Shaprashad Anadilo Bahai Shayanamrita Pau Radha Krishna Gunagao Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nita Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nita Mahapachari Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Gata Punya Bhakanda Vishwaso Navijayate Sare Sarva Vikana Manirasyo Pajayate Prasanna Cheta Soyashu Udpaya Pratishtite Prayopa Vukta Satyanda Vasalamkara Charchita Utishta Boji Nodasya Kavamayam Jaye Mahi. How's everyone's Kartik going? Good? Okay.
Just want to remind that there's an artik.
There's a what? Artik now. Vanchakop Darusha. So we can move everything, all the seats, that is, not everything. Oh, thank you. This book gets around.
Yeah.
Pardon, I'm gonna vamos. Vámonos. Voy, yo voy. Hare Krishna.